It ain't 15. Rising Stars National Camp the check-in. Joel Hillsman, Mario Mays, Sylvester Williams. Mark, the best thing you saw? What'd you see?
I would say one of the most important things that I seen was the athleticism of these 13 and 14-year-old kids, rising freshmen, and the size. Impressive to see a kid this big, this early, and just excited to see what they're going to project to be later on down the line.
One thing that impressed me so much is the hustle and desire out of a lot of these kids. You know, a lot of these kids, they're all-stars, they're top dog in their world, so you think they may come out a little flat or may come out a little lazy. But these kids know that this isn't a fun trip, this is a business trip. And a lot of these kids took it as a business trip, and they came out with that hustle and desire and wanted to show that they were the top dog, not only in their world, but in the whole world.
In general for you?
Kind of like what Coach Mays touched on, a lot of versatility, guys 6'6" plus with perimeter skills. And I think there's a lot of depth this year. Maybe not the clear top dogs, but a lot of solid guys all around that could surprise some people down the road.
Yeah, I would agree. There is a lot of depth, top to bottom, 225, 230 individuals, which leads me to you, Sly. We've got parents, families here, supporters. You don't pay. But who would you pay to see? Who's been most fan-friendly to you?
I'm glad you mentioned that. 15 years ago, I got into this business because I didn't want to pay to get into the games. But I'm going to tell you 3 kids right now who I saw who I would actually pay my money to see. One of them, kids out of Orlando, Florida, Fabio Basili. He is the smoothest player here. He goes outside, he handles the ball well, and he can shoot a dead-eye knockdown jumper. The next guy I saw is Cedric Nuganda. I think he's the best big man here. He's a 6'8", 6'9" kid out of Scottsdale, Arizona. He can handle the ball on the outside. He can shoot it a little bit on the outside, and he's a workhorse on the inside. And the best all-around player I saw here, the one I would spend my money, is Zion Cruz out of Trenton, New Jersey. This kid's going to Hudson Catholic, and he is the truth. At 14 years old, I love everything he does. He goes to the basket hard. He defends hard. He shoots well. He's a kid I would pay my money to go and see.
From the scouting vision, the scouting aspect, what have you seen?
Well, it's great to see all this talent, and these kids are extremely talented, but this isn't enough to get you where you want to go. Like Coach Becker's talked about a lot, this is just a starting point. You got to keep working for 4 years because these kids haven't even stepped foot on a high school campus. So I know it's the mixtape age. You want all the highlights and dunks, but you got to focus on other things. You got to approach it the right way, have the right people around you, and make sure you develop throughout high school to get where you want to go.
Coaching standpoint, what do you see most that stands out?
Well, as a coach, I'm thinking about how would I build a team and what would I start with. And every time I think about starting to build a team, I think about a point guard. What I've seen from the point guard spot, I've seen 2 kids that I thought were super solid. They made great decisions with the ball. And the first one was Nasir McDaniel. Yes. And the funny thing is, he's going to Paul VI. And you know what kind of basketball they play. We had the pleasure of having him come up to the Tournament of Champions this Christmas. But he was smooth, made great decisions off the pick and roll. He's a shot maker also. And he sets players up and makes great decisions with the basketball. So I thought he was solid, but also Willie Lightfoot at the point guard position. I like Willie Lightfoot because of his defensive intensity and what he brought on the defensive end. And he also done a good job of making open shots. So those 2 guys for me at the point guard position, I would start right there and take them 2 first. I like MJ Rice, and the thing that was impressive to me about MJ Rice was him being able to rebound the ball on one end and then in transition get to the basket and get to the hole and finish plays. I also thought that
Hamdi Tamba.
Hamdi Tamba. I don't want to butcher that name, but the kid going to Knoxville.
You will butcher your
Catholic.
shot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that was the thing that was impressive to me about him. He finished well on the pick and roll. He was able to catch the ball, soft set of hands, put the ball in the basket. But then on the defensive end, man, if he wasn't blocking the shot, he was changing the shot. So his upside to me is through the roof.
the drill portion of it. Now, just to break it down, you have your drills. They're broken down into teams. So they drilled and worked together as a team, then went into the gameplay. Sly, what kind of gameplay action did you see?
Well, one thing you talked about Narcia Doug McDaniel. You know, he's a leader, a leader of men, a guy who leads teams. But what I saw, I like the bully ball aspect. You know, I'm 5'11" and a half. We got to put that half on the end. But I love to see the big guys play. And what I loved about that team part of the game, a lot of times during these showcases and summer events, the big guys don't really get a chance to shine because they don't like to pound the ball down to the inside. But I saw a couple of guys out there who really worked on the middle. And one guy I want to say is Dante Green. Dante Green is a 6'10", 6'8" guy, you know, somewhere around there, and he was a force on the inside. In the game that I had, he had 20 points. All 20 of those points came with around 3 feet around the basket. You know, they were feeding them down low, and it's rare that you see that big man who works with his back to the basket anymore. You don't see that. But I like the fact that a lot of the guards didn't have that selfish play. They made it a point, we're going to try to feed the inside. So it was a you know, you had your ball. Now, you got your kids who love to shoot it up, but I like the fact that they worked it around some and got those big guys the ball.
Slide that mic on over there to Trent. Hey, one of our mics went out. Trent, your aspect of what you've seen in gameplay action so far.
Well, like we talked about Zion Cruz, I think he might be the best overall prospect here. But I saw some good big men like you were talking about. A kid I liked was Alex Carabin. He's from he plays with Expressions Elite up in Massachusetts, and he has some old school big to him, but he can also step out. He runs the floor hard, rebounds. Him and Prince Aligbe, another big, strong wing, grown man. I think a lot of the kids underestimate the physical part because some of these guys have just been, you know, dominating, and that's something you have to focus on once you get to the high school level.
14 years old, rising freshman, hence the CP3 Rising Stars National Camp. You guys touched on a lot of players. I like Cruz. I like Scooter Henderson. I love Doug McDaniel, that's the WCAC. And bringing in that, you've got California, you've got a lot of Georgia, a lot of Florida, Minnesota with Holloman, they've been representing. Milwaukee has played very well. But the WCAC just continues to have key vital players. You're 14 years old, you're going in to play in that league and a shot clock. How big is that?
Well, basically, you got to have some poise. You know, like you said, most kids are used to playing in an open court style, getting up and down. But to me, when you put a shot clock on the floor, you got to have an IQ because you got to understand how to set plays, the timing of what you're setting up, and making sure you get a shot off before that shot clock goes off.
Trent, from a scouting standpoint, how do you use that as evaluation?
Well, that's a perfect for evaluation because you have to play with structure, like you said, high IQ, toughness, and guards are so important in that type of environment and setting because they have to set the table and make sure you really know how to play.
And even in this showcase setting, what things from a coaching aspect can you take away from the player development as far as actually executing some of the base things that have been put in defensively and offensively?
Well, the thing that I look at is when you see a kid like MJ Rice, physically, he's already a senior, you know. So when you start talking about development, you got to break down what does he need to take him through the roof. Right now in the transition, he can finish just about any play above the rim. But what I would say on a kid like that, working on his jump shot, making sure he understands when to go, when not to go, because like you guys talked about, right now, these guys can physically dominate the guys their age. But when you start talking about putting him on the floor with seniors, juniors, he's got to understand when to go, when not to go. And like I said, just a fine-tune his skill set.
The ceiling's so high for these young men as they go in. It's the CP3 Rising Stars National Camp from the Greensboro Sportsplex in Greensboro, North Carolina. We're going to get ready for the final 3 camp games, all of those games here on SUV TV. And then after lunch, 1:30 or so, we'll have the dunk contest, the All-American games to close it up. For Trent Markwood, Sylvester Williams, Coach Mario Mays, I'm Joe Hilsman, the SUV TV.com.